Well, what can I say? Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to a brand new episode of the Tape Study Series. I'm your host, Marie Shadows, and the Tape Study Series is dedicated to watching professional wrestling matches and breaking it down, pausing it, talking about it, asking questions, and reacting to professional wrestling videos. I've done this on Twitch and also done it a few on YouTube as well, and I am happy to bring it back because I think that sometimes looking at matches, talking about it, giving flowers, giving praise, giving ideas on how to do something fresh and smart and to just help the business. Because essentially, I want to make sure that professional wrestling is better than it was yesterday. That is my whole entire goal for Tape Study Series. It is not to bash any kind of wrestling. It is not to bash any type of wrestler. It is to be made aware of certain things and to improve upon it. That's all it is. To improve upon professional wrestling, because professional wrestling is the best form of live theater, and it is the foundation for everything else that we have in this world, and we created it. And wrestling is the most unique thing that we have as a sport and also an entertainment, because those two are together. They go hand in hand, sports and entertainment. Yes, you could definitely get your sports. You could definitely just be a wrestling fan and enjoy wrestling matches. While if you want the drama part of it, you have your entertainment. But when you combine them together, it is the greatest thing that we have ever created. And I am so excited to be sharing with you a brand new video for Tape Study Series. There is another Tape Study Series video also coming out too, and it is the match of Josh Barnett versus Jon Moxley, and I went over that live on both Twitter and on YouTube. So that video will also be up. This video will also be up on all of my platforms and also with my fourth wall. If you guys don't know, fourth wall is very similar to Patreon, but in my opinion is a little bit better than Patreon. And I am so glad to have a fourth wall account, and I'm so glad to have my fans join me over at fourth wall. All the links and everything will be down in the description below. That's such like a mouthful to say, and it doesn't even roll off the tongue very, very well. And by the way, I'm Marie Shadows, the host and the creator of the Square Circle podcast that has a bunch of other shows underneath the Square Circle podcast, so like the Tape Study Series, the WrestleTale interview series as well, Inside the Locker Room series as well. And again, all of that could be found down in the description box where you could click on all of my links and support me there. And you could also get my wrestling planner. If you don't know anything about my wrestling planner, let me show you. This right here is my wrestling planner for 2024. And it comes with a calendar, travel budget, some notes, some more notes, some show notes. I think I missed my favorite part. At the end of the year, it is, award ceremony. So that's in here too. And we missed my favorite part. My favorite part is the 7-star matches. The One More Match Wrestling Planner is available on Barnes & Nobles. Again, make sure to check that box down in the description for all the links to support me and everything that I do in the world of professional wrestling. And if you guys don't know, these are blue lens glasses. So because I have my ring light on, it is bothering my eyes. So this will hopefully like help me and stuff like that. So like I have to have a lot of lights on so that way it could be nice and illuminated for you to see who I am. But in the event my eyes do take a toll on everything, my eyes take a toll on me. Basically I need it to at least like block some of the blue light emitting from not only my recording station right here and also the lights and stuff. So these help so much. They really do. For the duration of this entire recording, the audio for the match, because we are going to sit down and watch the match together, and I'm going to pause and talk about it and create a reaction video for you guys. The whole entire match is going to be muted because commentary was horrible. I have nothing against the guys on commentary. I do not think we needed 4 people on commentary, and I do not know if anyone studied up on why this match is happening and what's happening and the story and all that. It was just not in sync at all, and I just not gonna have the audio on, so it's gonna be very mute. You're gonna hear me. We're gonna pause. We're gonna talk about it. But yeah, I just don't understand the commentary at all and why that happened the way that it did. As always, if you have any comments, if you have any questions, if you have any thoughts, leave them down in the comment section below this video, and I answer everybody. I give everybody something to think about, a different perspective, or just something. I acknowledge you in the comments, which is what's needed when it comes to um, interacting with everybody. I acknowledge you. I'm just setting things up. That's all I'm doing. So again, this is going to be Jon Moxley versus Naito, and I will say this before we actually begin, that it wasn't as bad as people made it seem. It really wasn't. I actually watched the match in full before doing this, and I could definitely tell you that it was not as bad, but I can see where things went wrong. I can see how they weren't communicating as well, and both of these guys have two different kinds of psychology and ideology when it comes to professional wrestling. Obviously, Naito is from Japan and is a representative of New Japan Pro Wrestling, and over there the ideology is very different for how you entertain a Japanese crowd. If you guys have been following me for the past 5 years of me having the Square Circle podcast and me doing the tape study series off and on, I always talk about how the Japanese crowd is completely different from an American crowd, and that has to be taken into consideration if you ever want to have a wonderful match with a Japanese wrestler. For the most part, I would say listen to the Japanese wrestler and follow their lead, and then ask nicely if you can get in what you need to get in for the match to get yourself over. And respect goes a long way when it comes to Japanese wrestlers and Japanese culture. Over on the American side, we want a little bit of everything. We want a little bit of violence, a little bit of chaos, a little bit of wrestling. We want all the flippy stuff. We want all the indie stuff, and we want the drama as well. So we come with a mixed bag of a lot of things. So these two ideologies and these two thought patterns and philosophies definitely clashed between Jon Moxley and Naito for this match, just to get back the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship title. And as you know, I made a bunch of videos saying that Jon Moxley at the time was not my IWGP champion, and it kind of sucks to know that it was admitted that it was used as a prop, even though we all knew that giving the belt to Moxley was just so he could have an accolade and use it as a prop. And it did not help New Japan Pro Wrestling. It did not help any of the ticket sales in New Japan Pro Wrestling, even though people have already seen this match, already gave their opinion on it, and we have moved on from the match. I did promise my community that I will watch it and react to it, and they get to enjoy that. And I will say that I did watch the LIJ versus LIJ that happened over in New Japan Pro Wrestling. New Japan Pro Wrestling is now doing New Japan Soul, which is like a road to the next lead up of the pay-per-view for New Japan Pro Wrestling. Well, a pay-per-view for New Japan Pro Wrestling, which would be like the G1. So like that's how they do their stuff over there in Japan. The next, if you want to call it a pay-per-view, the G1 is basically the next tournament that's happening. It's not necessarily a pay-per-view, but you get the idea. New Japan Pro Wrestling has NJ Soul, which is the road to the G1. And when Naito came through the curtain to have his match with his fellow LIJ members, the crowd erupted into a loud pop and standing ovation, and they really did love the fact that the championship title was back home and that Naito had it, and they celebrated and they cheered, and it was great. It was fantastic. And I basically said on Twitter that Moxley never got that. And Moxley never got that standing ovation when he went over to Japan. And I will say it again, because I know someone in the comments is going to tell me that I'm wrong. I will say this again, that when Moxley came out for his one title defense in New Japan Pro Wrestling, which was against Evil, well, that wasn't his first defense. Unless, like, no, because he fought Ren Narita, Shota, and then Evil. But it just seems like it's not consistent enough because he was over here in the United States. So sometimes it could get a little weird remembering like certain things. However, I will say this again, that because Jon Moxley goes through the crowd, of course the crowd is going to pop. That's an easy, cheap pop. But it is what you do in your overall body of work that fans will pop because they want to see you. Not because, oh my God, here's a wrestler, he came through the crowd, you know, he might just be like me. No. So I do not count anybody that goes through the crowd, unless you're Jey Uso, that, you know, that's why you get the pop. Jon Moxley just gets the pop because it's a guy, it's a wrestler going through the crowd, and that's it. It's not like the same type of feeling you would feel when you watch Naito come through the curtain and everybody is giving him a standing ovation for bringing back the championship title home. Now, of course, when we watch this, again, it will be on mute. I will pause and talk about things. So let's get into it. And this is the beginning of the match where our referee is Red Shoes. Red Shoes is the senior referee for New Japan Pro Wrestling, and he is officiating this match. And here we go. You know, Moxley just starts off with that, you know, I'm a tough guy shit and these forearms. Now, okay, I will say this, though, that you should not start out the match with forearms. There's a time and place to do the forearm exchange. And I've said this many times when I review New Japan Pro Wrestling, that there is a time and place for doing forearms. Starting the match with it, no. This is how you can tell Moxley wanted to do his own shit, his own hardcore stuff. And it's like, no. No. Start out with, like, you know, the regular headlock and chain wrestling for that little bit of time. And as we go, we get these forearms. And at this point, I just think that Naito was just not caring. He was like, all right, you can beat me up if you want to. That's fine. And he's just taking it on the chin because he's not even fully seated down. You're supposed to have your opponent seated down at that point. And then here comes Naito, and Naito does the spitting thing. This is how you could tell Naito is very unserious, because he knows he's going to get the belt back, and we know this now after the fact. But you could just tell that Naito just doesn't care as much as he would care if this is in New Japan and it was done like the correct way. And now here's Naito getting under the skin of Jon Moxley, and all Jon wants to do is just be this really bad pretend tough guy of like, oh my God, I'm so angry, I'm gonna throw in a chair because that's all I know. No, dude, where is your wrestling skill? Naito wants to have a wrestling match. Naito does not want to have a hardcore match. This guy is getting ready for the G1 at the time. Why would he want to have a hardcore match? And then knowing that you could get disqualified by using a chair in this match and lose the belt anyway. This here bothered me. This exchange bothered me because it's like, how are you so superhuman at this point? How are you superhuman in the beginning of the match to block a kick that everybody hits and just move to the side and be like, oh, I'm going to grab his knee and, you know, drop down and then do these short arm clotheslines in the corner? Like, why? Why are we doing the very power shots? That's what I didn't understand. He stopped the kick to do the power shots of the short arm clothesline And Naito's just like, I just got to take this for the time being because he knows he's going to get the title back. So this is why we have this two different outlooks on this match, is because somebody wanted to do things their way and the other one wanted to do things their way, and they couldn't really compromise. And this is what we got, where some compromised, some didn't compromise. And, you know, it just doesn't look like it was talked about. It probably was talked about, but it doesn't look like the chemistry was there when Naito has good chemistry with other wrestlers. We have some more power shots. Here comes Jon taking advantage, and then to do this, and then he walks away to give some breather. And then sort of mocking, which is okay. Naito here selling the shit out of it. At this point, Moxley doesn't know what to do. And then to wrap Naito's leg around the pole. I've never seen it done so like nonchalantly, like, all right, this is our next sequence. I'm just gonna, you know, not do in such urgency, but the other attacks were in urgency. So I just don't understand. He picks and chooses like what he wants to do and how he wants to do it, and there's no consistency with it. Again, just working on Naito's knee. If you know that Naito has a history of having bad knees, because we always use that as either a talking point or an excuse or something, like this here, I'm gonna pause again, because if you know that Jon Moxley, oh no, wrong thing, I'm so sorry. If you know that Naito has knee problems, why didn't you start working on his knee ahead of time? Why does it have to be, oh, I'm just gonna take your knee and hit it into the pole like 2 times, and then while Naito is limping over here, I'm gonna take the cover off of the announcer's table, and the next sequence, as we'll see soon, is that Moxie takes Naito and slams him onto the announcer's desk. And it's like, why? Why do you need to be hardcore when the match does not need to call for it? There's a philosophy in New Japan Pro Wrestling that they barely do hardcore matches. And the last 2 times they've done hardcore matches, it completely changed how Kenta is viewed, like for himself, because Kenta like got hurt the first time around that they did a hardcore match against Tanahashi, and Tanahashi was like, no, I don't want to do this hardcore match, but it's Wrestle Kingdom, right? In Wrestle Kingdom, you go big or go home. So what they did was the hardcore match, the referee did not want to hold the unstable ladder that they had, and so as Kenta climbed up the ladder and decided to jump off the ladder onto Tanahashi, he ended up, I believe, just crashing through the table, and it messed up his body. So it's sort of like, this is why New Japan Pro Wrestling doesn't do hardcore matches. They believe in the spirit of professional wrestling, get it done in the ring. You can use like outside interference, but for the most part, they are very traditional and they uphold that standard of getting the match done in the ring. And then with something like this, where Moxie, all he wants to do is do hardcore match after hardcore match, using the outside to his advantage. And it's like, why do you need to? Can you not defeat Naito in a regular match if Naito dictates how the match should go? Can you not defeat him? Like, you should be able to defeat him. And you should be a smart enough champion to know when to use outside interference, meaning like the announcer's table or the chair. And then you should also know when to do chain wrestling and string a match together that makes sense if you are the champion. And the challenger has to struggle a little bit in order to get that championship off of your waist by the end of the match. So as I play it, this is what happens. Just using the announcer's table to just get Naito on there and hurt his back. Like, why? Why is that needed? It's not. And then these punches and the whole story on Twitter, because people were doing fluff tweets and Naito never got fluff tweets. Oh, and by the way, for a wrestler like Jon Moxley that says that he respects New Japan Pro Wrestling and he's been trying 5 years to get this championship title belt, why the fuck are you giving Red Shoes the middle finger? Why? If you respect New Japan Pro Wrestling, there is no reason why you should be giving the middle finger to Red Shoes. I can understand if this is like an evil situation from House of Torture and how House of Torture has put Red Shoes through so much shit over the years and Red Shoes retaliates. But Jon Moxley is not that kind of heel, and it doesn't make any sense to give Red Shoes the middle finger just because Red Shoes is telling you, yo, bring it back into the ring, you know, open palm strikes, not closed fists. Like, it makes no sense. Jon Moxley wants to be the martyr so bad for everyone to be like, yeah, this is what a tough guy is. And it's like, no, you got to pick and choose your story beats for when you want to, you know, give someone the middle finger, for when you want to do something, so that way it makes sense with your character and it's consistent with your character. This is just like flipping around and stuff like that, and that really didn't make any sense. It really didn't. But let's keep going. And again, you know, with Moxie trying to be the tough guy, I was talking about the Mox fluff tweets, that Moxley is the only one that went through hardship and no one else went through hardship. And it's kind of like, you know, how come Naito doesn't get that love? Naito should be able to get that love too, the same kind of hype love that Moxley gets with his fluff tweets. You know the reason why Naito opens up his eye the way that he does? It's because he's been bullied in Mexico, because they were like, oh, you need to open up your eyes more. And that's why he does it now for his whole entire character. So, you know, why doesn't Naito get the same love from others? And now we have this little time in between, and Moxie doesn't like that, but Moxie doesn't know how to improvise and use that time to, you know, either with the crowd or try to do something. But now we go back to the forearms and chops and the spitting and the slapping, and I'm just like, this is really weird. That's the first time Mox goes for a cover attempt without wasting any time, and then we just have this single leg Boston Crab with the knee into the back. And by the way, Jon Moxley is not a submissionist. He would need to go to a school to, you know, work on his submissions and stuff. Because he thinks that the 3 things that he does, or the 2 things like this, is considered submission. I mean, it is a submission, but after what we saw versus him against Josh Barnett, I have a lot of questions and a lot of doubt. Just a lot of things. And now we come to a pile driver. Like, why are you doing a pile driver at this moment, at this point in the match? Why? What is the point of doing the pile driver when you have not worked on the neck and head? And I know it's a power move, so you can maybe get a victory. But out of everything that we just saw, it's just like, I don't know what else to do. I'm just going to do a pile driver, and that's it. And then it's also weird for Moxie to take this much time and stalk his prey, for the lack of a better phrase. Naito should be giving it his all, but at this point, like I said, Naito is just going through the motions. So is Moxley. It just doesn't add up. The story doesn't add up. And then here comes with these elbows. Red Shoe should be telling him to get out from there because it's past 5. And then here comes this, so just a simple Saito suplex, goes for the cover. Luckily, we got a kick out. And here comes Naito going over to the other side, resting a little bit. And it's just sort of awkward. You know, it is. And then here we come with some slap boxing. I think this is called slap boxing. And again, there's no rhyme or reason. It's just, I'm going to hit you here. I'm going to hit you there. I'm going to do this move. I don't know why I'm going to do this move. And then that, that fake tough guy shit. And more forearms. Like, there is no rhyme or reason to this whole thing. Nothing at all. Here comes Moxie trying to do some heel stuff with scratching Naito's back. You don't really make Naito a babyface at all, because Naito doesn't come across good as a babyface. He comes across good as a heel that antagonizes people, and that gets under your skin. And I know at this point they're trying to will the crowd into it, but the crowd was dead anyway. So, and I think most of the noises were piped in when I first watched it the first time. Got some headbutts coming in. And then Moxie's going to try again for... I forgot what he does here, but we'll see. They are both on there, very scary. Oh yeah, Moxie doesn't get to do anything except for Naito just pushes him off. Naito has like the least amount of offense in this match. Wow, Jon Moxley gets most of the offense in, but the offense doesn't make sense from one sequence to another sequence. And then this here is very weird. I saw this on Twitter, all like going through the timeline and stuff, and Naito just spearing Jon Moxley into the barricade. And it really does look bad. It really does look bad. And it's like, why would you want to do that to that small little space? And then Naito's having fun. This is how you know Naito is not very serious, because again, he knows the outcome, and they couldn't really come to an agreement for what to really do in this match. And then here comes Moxie just going through the motion of like not selling anything, not trying to wave at Naito when he's hitting him with the foam thing. Like, if someone's hitting you with something that's like foam, at least swap their hand away or try to push them away and, make it seem like you're selling, like, hey, get away from me. Why are you hitting me with this foam thing? There's nothing there. Moxie just knows that, all right, I got speared through the table. And then, well, not through the table, but like in that small spot, Moxie just knows, okay, I got that. And then they go to the next sequence of like, let me just get back into the ring and let's just continue where we were going. You guys got 60 minutes. Not saying to use up the whole entire time for the 60 minutes, but make it believable that you got hurt somewhere, or you want to create some distance so that way Naito can eventually stop hitting you with a foam, little thing. Get back into the ring. Some shots. Just some shots. Just that. And now here is Naito getting some of his shit in, as we say in the business. And then he makes him think about this neck breaker for a while, which again is just Naito playing with Jon Moxley at this point. Just playing with Jon Moxley at this point. Goes over for the cover, and you can even tell the cover is not serious. So Naito really didn't do anything wrong in this match. It's just that, again, there's two different philosophies. There's two different ideologies for when it comes to wrestling. And that's the most fight that Moxie has at this point. But I don't really think it's right for Moxie to get the upper hand that very quickly just to do that. And then this small package here, man. Small packages are dangerous in professional wrestling. They could give you the victory in 3 seconds, and that's all you need. Here comes Naito getting Moxie ready for, at least, I think, Destino. I get his moves confused sometimes. If it's going to be Destino or if it's going to be the other one. Now we're back to the corner. And then Moxie has enough energy to do this big power bomb to Naito after getting hit with some elbows. Like, there's just a lot of things, man. Just a lot of things. But anyway, I'm not even sure what Naito was gonna do up in the corner anyway. I mean, he could end up doing like a Hurricanrana, which would be cool. Now here comes Moxley to pick him up, and he realizes that Naito is just dead weight, and here comes Red Shoes Uno to be like, "Oh, I gotta check on him." And this is probably the first time that I've seen Moxley like pander to the crowd, talk to the crowd, and just, you know, waiting as time passes when he's usually the one on the attack and stuff. And then just pushes Red Shoes out the way, and here we go. And yeah, it's a combination of both their faults in a way, but I understand why. Here comes Destino right off the ropes, and then again a double down. By the way, a double down is one of my like biggest pet peeves in wrestling. I used to not mind it, but I used to see it all the time in New Japan Pro Wrestling when I, you know, do reviews for New Japan Pro Wrestling. Double downs are just really annoying now to me. It has to be done right for me not to say anything about it. And now we got to try to get to our feet. Come on, guys. You can make it to your feet. Come on. We could do this. Here comes Naito on the attack. Some more elbows, which are fine. This is for him to set up for his rest of the moves. And then this here, without, you know, Moxie should be selling and then also trying to look over his shoulder to be like, okay, we're going to do this next. You know, Naito here trying to get the crowd into it. I did hear a couple of claps and stuff. You could see a couple of claps on the hard cam side. But again, the crowd was dead. The crowd was dead. And then John goes for a sleeper. John thinks that, you know, he's the best person when it comes to MMA and submissions and always trying to hook on that sleeper or that choke. And it's like, bro, you got to get something new, man. Because that could be broken in an instant. Here comes Naito to do Destino. Very nicely done, by the way. I don't know what people were seeing when they were watching this. And then this was kind of weird because, oh no, this part wasn't weird. But I don't know how John ends up getting the amount of strength and energy to counter something like a second Destino into the DDT. Because in New Japan Pro Wrestling, finishers are protected heavily. You barely have someone kicking out of a finisher. And if they go and do the same finisher again, that means that 1, 2, 3, that's done. But over here on the American side of things, when it comes to professional wrestling, finishers are not protected like how they used to be protected. Anybody could kick out of anything and it would be like, that's it, you know. It could be the illusion could be broken. And then this fake ass hulking up, the Mox Hulk up is so fake, man. And then again, we're going through forearms. Like, why do we have to go through forearms? Naito doing very well. And then Moxie doing a lariat, somehow got energy into Dirty Deeds, which, you know, Naito was just like, I'm going to let you pick me up. It's okay. Thankfully, Naito kicked out because even though we already know the outcome. And then this is stupid. This is completely stupid. Like, why are you going after Red Shoes? This is the guy that's supposed to be like, oh, I respect New Japan Pro Wrestling. It just annoys the hell out of me that Red Shoes says it was 2. He got up at 2. You decided to like not take a second, Destino. And then to bring in the chair because he can't beat Naito on his own. That's the thing. He uses the hardcore stuff because he cannot defeat nobody on his own clean. And then Red Shoes over here cowering in fear because of Moxley. Red Shoe Uno is the one that always, slaps the shit out of Evil or makes sure that House of Torture, doesn't get to do what House of Torture does. And then kicking the chair out, that's very admirable and noble of Red Shoes, and that should be rewarded. But here comes Moxie trying to be like, yo, what the fuck are you doing? Stop. just stop, dude. This match does not need to turn into a hardcore match. Try to defeat Naito on your own with your own wrestling ability. And then this is awkward. This is the awkward part I was talking about, because Naito didn't want to take that move again, so he's just going to be like, no. But he did anyway and countered it and landed on his shoulder. And this is where Mox knew that he had to, at least do something. I think at this part, that should have been done sooner. The kick to the stomach, and then we have another counter and go through the thing. And, Naito ends up weakening people before he does his move. And then that didn't give enough time to, jump into it. And then it was just, all weight coming down. And here comes Naito to fully do Destino to get the 1, 2, 3. But it took a little bit because, again, it's that back and forth confrontation. It's that, the stubbornness of both wrestlers. That's all it is. As far as the match goes, first of all, congratulations to Naito for becoming the IWGP World Heavyweight Champion and bringing the title back home, because a lot of us has wanted that title to come back home, because that title is what makes New Japan Pro Wrestling. It's what sells tickets over in Japan. And if wrestling fans and wrestling podcasters want to always use the fact that, the Japanese yen is down, that's why all the wrestlers go over to Tony Khan and get the bag. The Japanese yen is down. Well, if you know any kind of stock information, everything in stocks goes up and down. Every single currency goes up and down. We're currently in an era, in an age where our dollar doesn't mean anything. So, of course, it's going to be weaker in some places or stronger in other places. It's just, that's how the economy is made. Everything goes up and down. So, you can't always use that as a way to be like, oh, well, the yen is down and, New Japan is this, New Japan is that. And in the same breath being like, oh my God, Jon Moxley is champion and that's going to help New Japan Pro Wrestling. It didn't help shit. I'll tell you that right now. It did not help shit. It was only used as a ploy to try to help AEW get some ratings. It was trying to use it as a ploy to maybe talk about New Japan Pro Wrestling, but from the online discourse, because I don't know if anybody out in New York City are actually New Japan fans, but for the most part, the online discourse was who are these guys? Why do we have New Japan Pro Wrestling, guys on here, and stuff like that. And you could definitely also tell too that when Tanahashi was interviewed, he said that he is envy of how WWE is able to produce TV-ready wrestlers. And that's something that he wants to implement. But you cannot implement that if the championship title got taken out of New Japan Pro Wrestling to be on U.S. soil on a company that doesn't really, support New Japan Pro Wrestling like that. You can say that they do. But like I said in my previous videos, that if Tony Khan, if all he talks about are 90s wrestlers from the past, he has no interest in the future of what wrestling can be. He has no interest in the future stars that New Japan Pro Wrestling can create. And if he does, he's just going to sign them because he wants already built stars and not any of his own stars that can rival the built stars of New Japan Pro Wrestling. And if people take offense to that, they're going to take offense to that. That's totally okay. But that is the reality of it. So that belt, that IWGP belt, sells tickets over in Japan. Now, while the IWGP belt was over here in the United States, it didn't really help New Japan Pro Wrestling to get more subscriptions for the NJPW World streaming service, which, by the way, I am not sponsored by New Japan Pro Wrestling, but I could be. I'm just saying I could be. One day, in the future, one day. But the goal of getting more revenue to come in so that way the boys could be well taken care of is getting those subscriptions. And because Moxley was IWGP champion, no one gave a shit about New Japan Pro Wrestling World to get subscriptions. There was no talk about the increase of them getting subscriptions. Do you want to know the only time that they talked about an increase of NJPW subscriptions and also the Wrestling Universe subscriptions as well, because Stardom is on a different network than New Japan Pro Wrestling? It was when New Japan Pro Wrestling announced the historic crossover of New Japan x Stardom. That was the time when subscriptions for NJPW World skyrocketed. And it was the best thing that ever happened to New Japan Pro Wrestling and NJPW World, and all of that money and all the boys and all the girls were taken care of. But because Moxley had this championship title on him, nothing increased. There was no press conferences around what made anything increase. There was no press conference to let us know that, yeah, because of Jon Moxley being champion, this is what happened with us. Nothing. So I am one person that is looking at this from the outside of everything and the bigger picture. But it's also to let you guys know that that belt sells tickets. Now, what I was going to mention was that because the belt was over here in the United States, the junior division actually shined. The junior division signed, and that was a very good thing, because we all know, as New Japan Pro Wrestling fans and who love New Japan Pro Wrestling with all of their heart, the junior heavyweight division is similar to the cruiserweight division, and we always talk about it. The only problem is that it gets sort of pushed to the back, the same way the tag team division gets pushed to the back, because we focus on the IWGP title and we focus on the heavyweights and we focus on the single competitors. The Never Openweight Championship title also gets pushed back. I should say the Never Openweight division gets pushed back, but anybody can challenge for that championship title. Currently, we have Aaron Henare of the United Empire as our champion, as our Never Openweight champion, and I am very proud of him. And he's going to basically revitalize the division. Hopefully, everything works out, because sometimes New Japan Pro Wrestling, has hit and misses for the Never Openweight division and stuff like that. So with all of that being said, I care about New Japan Pro Wrestling. I know I went off on a tangent, but I care about New Japan Pro Wrestling. I care about how they use the chessboard in this world of professional wrestling. And I don't want New Japan Pro Wrestling to fully try to integrate a lot more American style kind of influences, even though, that can't help. But it should be a hybrid of American ideology and Japanese ideology when it comes to professional wrestling to grow their wrestlers. Right now, they are, let's face it, struggling a little bit to make those new stars, because when the top stars left, nobody put anybody into really good positions to take over those top places or even try to risk it all. And they gave it to Tanahashi, and now Tanahashi has to scramble. And Tanahashi is seeing how it is very, very difficult. There is a way to sort of rotate everybody where everything makes sense. And Tanahashi, to be quite honest, has to take a page out of Triple H's book on how to book, on how to move things around. And I know it's not only Tanahashi, it's Gato too, because we have that information of Gato being the booker. But you do have to take some inspiration from WWE to make New Japan sort of work now that your top guys are in AEW. And I don't even know if they're ever going to come back to New Japan Pro Wrestling. But again, why would you want to go back when you could be doing like new things? And I say that of like, sometimes in life and in journeys, your past is your past. You could always revisit your past and stuff, but you want to go forth and make brand new memories. And for the most part, I wish that certain people were over in WWE to make those new memories, because you want to go global. You want people to know your name. You want people to know that, you're the best because you spent so much time being with other companies and doing other things, and then you go for the big one because you believed in yourself and other people believed in you, and that is why you're at that spot. You're in the spotlight for a reason, because you believe in yourself, other people believe in yourself. So me personally, I just want New Japan Pro Wrestling to get back to where they were before Tony Khan decided to take everybody just because he has the money. And by the way, money runs out. Money does not grow on trees. So take what you can for now and make sure to smartly invest it, so that way if anything does happen and if no calls ever happen, you got something to fall back on. But that's just me being very, very cautious. As for this match of Jon Moxley versus Naito, it was completely blown out of proportion from everybody on Twitter, where, they were just saying whatever the fuck they wanted to say, and that has been happening for quite a while now. That has been the thing on Twitter, is just say whatever, you'll get a reaction, and you may or may not get paid if you have a blue check mark or not, because Naito is a completely different wrestler. If you guys watch New Japan World and see how he works, he had a fantastic little match, even though it was LIJ versus LIJ. But Naito had an amazing match against Hiromu. There was no conflict of interest. There was no stubbornness. It was fantastic. Moxley, on the other hand, Moxley wants things done his way. And it's like, you can't always have it your way. You can't always have it the way that you see it, because it doesn't make sense. Why are you getting angry at certain parts in the match and not angry throughout the whole entire thing? Why didn't you ask for a hardcore match? Why do you have to make your matches hardcore when that's not the stipulation and it's a regular match? Why? Why can he not wrestle on his own merit? Why does he have to rely on chairs? Why does he have to rely on tables? Why does he have to rely on trying to use the outside to his advantage? I understand that in American wrestling, this is what I watch, but in terms of this, I understand that we want chaos, we want violence, we want blood, we want all of that. But there is a time and place for that. Set that up accordingly. Don't do it in a regular match that's meant for a regular title shot. If that's what he wanted, he should have really, really advocated for that, especially with his promo that made no sense about that he's going to bury Naito and do all these angry things and stuff like that. Like, why? Just have a regular match. You're the champion of, well, we're the champion, thankfully. You were the champion for New Japan Pro Wrestling, but like nothing made sense. Nothing made sense at all. And the match itself was not bad. There's just two different ideologies clashing, and you can't have that. You really can't. If I was Moxley, I would have followed Naito, because Naito knows how to get the crowd excited. Naito knows what to do. Naito can use maybe the psychology with the American audience. But then again, the stuff that New Japan does, the ideology that New Japan pushes, for the lack of a better word, but you guys get the idea. What New Japan does in Japan doesn't always translate well to the United States. And sometimes I feel like I have to defend New Japan and explain why things happen, and why American audiences may or may not like understand or get it. That's because American audiences and all of America live in their own bubble, and it's only about them and what they know, and if they want to try to branch out, it doesn't really work. And sometimes I really do come to the defense of New Japan Pro Wrestling, because New Japan Pro Wrestling is special. New Japan Pro Wrestling will never be perfect. WWE, AEW, MLW, all the promotions that we watch, they will never be perfect. And I will never ask for these promotions to be perfect, these companies to be perfect, because it makes no sense for them to be perfect. But what I will do is be like their cheerleader in their corner, because they have produced wonderful memories and they understand the structure of wrestling, that it is a little bit of everything, but you have to structure it right in order to get everybody on board. If everything is just all chaotic and throw caution to the wind, you're going to get that backlash. And then if you don't want to understand why you get that backlash, then nothing's really going to change. Nothing's really going to evolve. I'm always going to be behind New Japan Pro Wrestling. I do not think that giving Moxley the belt was the best option. It really wasn't. It was like, why is this happening? Naito over here had said many times that he's considering retiring because of the injuries and the nagging, his body is yelling at him to like stop wrestling. So he should have remained champion. There should have not been no wrestling politics, and remain champion throughout the rest of the year and have somebody like Suji to take the title off of him at Wrestle Kingdom. And then Naito could do whatever the hell he wants because Naito has earned it for giving us so many memories. Jon Moxley comes in over here, tries to be that tough guy, doesn't really do much media, doesn't really do much conversations to let people know, both Japanese people and Americans, know why we should be invested in each other's company, in this partnership. But again, there's no social media for that. There's no interviews for that. And that's where they drop the ball, because it's like you have to promote the partnership. It cannot just feel one-sided and think that everyone is going to be on board with it. You have to grow your audience. And by growing your audience, you have to talk to them. You have to have conversations with them. You have to let them know. You have to market to them. And then the one piece of advice that I've always heard throughout marketing and throughout like putting yourself out there is that you do have to repeat yourself multiple times, because not everyone is going to remember. And the more times you say who you are, what you're about, that's how you eventually get over, because you have to talk about it multiple times. Because us as humans, we have like so many things going on up here that we sort of forget why we want to support something versus not why we want to support something. And then we forget about who this person is, what they do. And the best thing to do is to remind people who they are. Like, I'm Marie Shadows. I'm the host and the creator of the Square Circle podcast. I once worked for WWE in 2018, and that was fantastic. And now I have a podcast and, live streaming and doing media press and interviewing professional wrestlers and having everything in kayfabe and being a cheerleader in my favorite promotions, where I get to be a cheerleader for New Japan Pro Wrestling and be like, hey guys, I know you guys could do better. I'm here to cheer you on. I'm here to let you know that, don't always be the nice person in the partnership. It's okay to say no. It's okay to protect your guys. It's okay to make sure that the next crop of guys that come in are ready. I'm just here to give ideas, and this is what Tape Study Series is about, is to basically break down professional wrestling, break down issues, break down matches, and be like, well, how can we improve it? The only way for this match to have been improved, if they probably would have just went with what Naito wanted to do. And then Moxley could have gotten in some of the stuff, but you have to look at the bigger picture of like, how can we tell this story? Because for some reason, there was a lot of flip-flopping between like who's a heel, who's a babyface, and because Moxley wants to do whatever the fuck he wants, it feels like he gravitates more towards being a heel, but it just doesn't work out. To have Naito as the babyface, even though he was very unserious in this match, it's like, why? If anything, this should have been like Naito's redemption arc, and through the interviews you could definitely see it's sort of like his redemption arc, but getting under the skin of Moxley. But it just doesn't work. It doesn't work. And for anyone out there that was saying that they didn't have any chemistry, it's because, again, two different thought patterns, two different ideologies are clashing. Two different ways of looking at professional wrestling are clashing. And sometimes they don't make the best matches. But luckily, this match is over. Now that the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship title is back in New Japan Pro Wrestling, where it belongs, feels completely right. Completely right. And now the G1 is happening later on this month in July. July 21st is when the G1 starts, and I am excited for it. And I will be covering that right here on the Square Circle Podcast on YouTube and Twitch. So make sure to hit that follow button on youtube.com/Square Circle Podcast and also on twitch.tv/Marie_Shadows. And if you enjoyed this breakdown and all of my takes for the tape study series, let me know down in a comment. I will acknowledge you. I will comment back, and make sure to check the box for all of my links so that way you can keep up with me. You can sign up to the newsletter. You can get my One More Match wrestling planner. You can support me everywhere and anywhere, and I will be totally, totally grateful. And I will see you guys on the next one. Bye.